WCB Podcast, your source for all things Chicago Blackhawks and everything hockey. With your host, Jarom and Tanner. Let's do it. Jarom and Tanner.
All right, it's another edition of the WCB Podcast. It's Jarom, it's Tanner. What's up, bud?
Oh, nothing. You know, we're going to be much closer to watching some actual hockey this weekend.
We have the Blackhawks prospects camp going on right now. The tournament that they play with Minnesota and St. Louis is this weekend. I'll get a good look at some of the young guys, not Leshinov, because he took a puck off the foot, and apparently that keeps him out of hockey. But hey,
doesn't matter. Don't need to play him in this meaningless prospect tournament.
Yeah, I mean this tournament saw Bedard do Bedard things last year.
Yeah, that was kind of sick though.
So, with that being said, there's not too much Hawks news. So what we're going to do is we're just going to jump right into it's preview season. So if you can tell by the jerseys we're wearing, it is time to kick things off in the Atlantic Division. We picked this simply because it's home of the defending Stanley Cup champion. Yeah. So we are going to go through each team, kind of talk about what they did last year, any key moves they possibly made, and possibly any storylines going into this upcoming season. So let's just kick this off here with number 8, the Montreal Canadiens, who last year finished 30, 36, and 16 for 76 points. Goal leader was Nick Suzuki with 33, assist leader Mike Matheson with 51, and point leader Nick Suzuki with 77. Do you have any key adds that Montreal had made this offseason?
Yeah, Patrick Laine. Ever heard of him?
Oh, never.
Yeah. I didn't realize. Really, did Mike Matheson have the most assists on the team?
Yeah, 51.
Holy shit. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean that's the biggest ad, right? Is Patrick Laine, and then much like the Hawks getting Taylor Hall back, they're going to have Kirby Dach for who knows, maybe a half a season. Maybe a whole season if the cards fall into place.
You asked me the other day, like, hey, do you think Kirby's going to actually play a full season? And much like your response with is Toronto going to actually do anything in the playoffs? Let them do it before I believe it. They got to do it for it to be a believer. And Kirby has got to play a full season before I said, yeah, I'll play a full season. And that's not counting. That's not going against him. I like Kirby. I hope he does well. And I hope he does play a full season. But until I see it, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's tough. I hope he does. I like Kirby.
I do hope he does.
He's gotten such a fucking bad start to his career, and it's so frustrating because I think he can be a very talented player. It's like, man, the stuff that he showed us when he first started touching the ice in a Chicago sweatshirt or sweater, what the fuck sweatshirt? Just dancing it so confidently through the neutral zone and into the offensive zone, and you're just like, man, okay, this kid might be something special. And then just, ever since the wrist break injury in the World Juniors that he didn't need to go to, it's just kind of all been slowly getting like road bumps. And it's just like rough as hell.
It is always like 3 steps forward, 5 steps back, I feel, for them. Like for him, I should say. Like he seems to have like all the pieces there, but it's just like on bad luck. Like was it Tenorti that put him out last year? Like just like crazy bad luck. But yeah. So Patrick Laine was the key addition this year. They're pretty much coming back with the same team as last year. Do they have the team where they can make a jump from 8th? Maybe not playoffs, but make some noise in this division, at least with the bottom half kind of being up for grabs.
I think they take it like somewhat of a step forward because I think there's plenty of teams that are going to take a step back. But I still think that they're going to be bottom of that division because the other teams that they are fighting at the bottom of the division, I think, have gotten better than what Montreal is going to be. Other than maybe Ottawa, like they finished with the same points percentage as Ottawa, and like that could totally happen again. And for them, I think this is just going to be another growth year for their young guns. Like Nick Suzuki had a good season, but Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slafkovsky, They're bringing in that Cole Hudson kid. Who just played 4 games last year at the end of the season. Or sorry, Lane Hudson. Cole is his brother. How many games did this kid end up playing here? 2 games, 2 assists though. And I know that they're excited about him. Caden Gooley just signed a big ticket, but he's on the last year of his entry level deal too. So I think it's just, it's a growth year for them. I don't see them blowing anybody out. I see them being the type of team that's David Savard's on his last year of his deal, so he's going to get moved. Christian Dvorak will probably get moved. Joel Armia, those guys will probably get moved around the trade deadline. And then you're just kind of, I don't know, maybe they'll try and move Josh Anderson or Brandon Gallagher, but I'm assuming that neither of those guys are going to play a whole season.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of, it's a very common theme among the teams that are at the bottom of the league right now. It's just, they got the pieces there, and it's just, okay, got to give them enough time to develop before you start spending the money to get the help around them.
So one thing that's super surprising from what I said, I felt like Josh Anderson and Brandon Gallagher are always hurt, right? Doesn't it seem like that?
Yeah.
They played 77 and 78 games each. And I thought they were much older. Brendan Gallagher's 31 and fucking Josh Anderson's 29. I don't know what world I'm living in right now, but these guys used to be more notable players. And so I thought that they've just disappeared from being injured, but no, they're just, no one talks about them anymore. Apparently.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to the other Canadian team at the bottom here, the Ottawa Senators. Last season, they finished in 7th in the Atlantic, 37, 41, and 4 for 78 points. Their goal leader was Brady Tkachuk at 37. Assist leader was Tim Stützle at 52. And points leader was Brady Tkachuk at 74. We know their big move. Adding Linus Ullmark.
That's true.
Is... I guess the one note I have here for storyline for Ottawa is this the difference maker they're looking for? Is this goaltending, or is Ottawa still a team just searching for identity?
I honestly think they believe in switching out their goalies all the time, and eventually something's going to work, because they went from Cam Talbot to Jonas Korpisalo to, they went from Matt Murray to Cam Talbot to Jonas Korpisalo, and then now to Ullmark within 4 years.
Yeah.
And they still haven't done anything, and they're just it's the goalie's fault. It's clearly got to be the defensive fault or the defensive scheme. And now one of the things that they also did in the offseason was trade away Jacob Chikrin, because now he's in Washington. I'm trying to remember who they brought back in that trade. Let me see. Fuck.
Was it just draft picks?
I don't think it was. Nick Jensen. That's who it was. They brought in another right-handed defenseman from Washington. And did they get someone else? I feel like these are small things that they did. Maybe not.
They added a bunch of small names. They brought in Gaudette back. Nick Cousins came in on a 1-year deal.
Yep. They signed David Perron. They have Nikolai Kulemin coming in on a fucking PTO. He's 38, hasn't been in the NHL in 6 years, so I don't know what that is. They're a team that I feel last year for sure, and probably going into this year they should be better than what they were on the ice. And I think last year was a lot of you see a team like Edmonton struggling, you see them struggling, Edmonton fires their coach, and then they go on a heater, and then you're okay, Ottawa, what are you going to do? Are you going to drop the coach? You're going to make some changes? And they just continue to not fucking do anything, and then it was too late. I think they might have swapped coaches later in the year, but it was just okay.
They waited. Yeah, it was a holding pattern for way too long. And it's you have the pieces, you have your young core locked in. And it's there's zero reason to not be taking the chances now, because it's Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, all these guys are getting to the point where it's shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Are you going to compete with these guys, or are you going to let them move move them on to somewhere where they can compete and you can get the assets back to redo this whole rebuild again.
Yeah, I'm curious if they have another shitty year like they did last year, if Giroux ends up making a move. I'm sure that they'll probably try to move him to a team that's going to be looking to win the cup, and it'd be interesting to see where he ends up. But yeah, like another big year out of Jake Sanderson. He's got that big fucking contract. What 8-year deal that's kicking in this season over a touch over $8 million. Yeah, I mean, I think that expectations are much higher than what they've produced over the last couple of years. So get on the fucking get on it.
Yeah, I feel like the expectations for Ottawa is always high, and there's zero reason for it because they never seem to come close to what people are anticipating for them.
It's just when you're looking at this team, like there's guys on the team that I'm like, they should be better. Maybe it's because Shane Pinto played half a season. Josh Norris played like half a season. Thomas Chabot played like half a season. Like I don't know if it was injury issues or like what the deal was, but it's just.
Well, Shane Pinto was half because of the suspension.
Yes, because he fucking placed bets through his friends.
Yeah. I guess the last question I'll have before we move on from Ottawa is, you talked about Giroux getting moved if this team have a bad year. Do you think Kachuk's getting a little, waiting too long and his patience is wearing thin and he's going to want to move if something doesn't change this season, at least see progress from 7th in the division?
Yeah. I mean, if they do what they should be able to do and what they're capable of, and like hopefully Allmark does help them out with like keeping the puck out of the net a lot better than their past 3 goalies that they brought in for the exact same situation, they can be more competitive. The division they're in is pretty tight though, so I don't know if they're going to be really jumping up over Buffalo or Detroit.
Yeah, sure. All right. So speaking of Buffalo, let's move on to the Sabres. Last year finished 6th in the division, 39, 37, and 6 for 84 points. Their goal leader was Tage Thompson with 29. Assist leader was Rasmus Dahlin with 39, and their points leader was a tie between Alex Tuch and Rasmus Dahlin at 59. The moves, they made some moves this past offseason, but again, it wasn't, from what I recall, they weren't any like, oh shit. It was more complimentary role guys, add some depth here and there.
The biggest thing they did this offseason was trade away Matthew Savoy for 2 guys that don't make any sense to Edmonton. I don't know what the deal with that was. That was one, and then they went and got Beck Mallenstein from Washington for a 2nd rounder. Other than that, they didn't really make any moves via trade. And a lot of the signings that they had were more depth guys.
Yeah, 1-year deal for Zucker, 1-year deal for Lafferty, 1-year deal for Reimer, 1-year deal for Pullman, 1 year for Yokiharu.
Lafferty signed a 2-year deal.
Oh, sorry.
And that's yeah. I mean, that team should have been way better. And I think that's just what it is with Buffalo, is like everybody expects them to be way better. And they just don't get it done. I don't know if they're too young. They bought out Jeff Skinner. That was another thing they did too. But yeah, I don't know. Rasmus Dahlin's disgusting, but like Tage Thompson goes from putting up 94 points the year before to 56. Like that's pretty fucking shitty of a drop off. Like you still have like the same guys around you.
You can't expect to be a playoff team when your team lead is 59 points. Like right. You're just not getting the offense you need.
Dude, that's wild thinking about it, because last year like there was like so many teams that had more points leaders than the Hawks, and like now like Connor Bedard would have been number 1 on this fucking team, and this team should have been like a playoff team.
This team, I know I had them as a wild card team. I had them surprising everybody last year, and they definitely had high expectations from a lot of people. And hey, technically it was a winning season for them. Finally, like reaching that threshold of, let's get some winning hockey going, but it's still the last playoff spot in the East was what the Capitals at 91 points. I mean, they were still 7 points back.
Well, here's the thing too. The year before, they were actually in a better position. They were 91 points, and they were fifth of 8. Yeah, fifth of 8 in 2022, 2023. So they actually regressed.
No shit.
Yeah, dude. That's pretty shit.
And here's the thing too, that I think the biggest storyline for this team going into the season is how is Lindy Ruff coming back going to work this time around?
Dude,
like
it's so cool looking at this and seeing like their records where they finished and like who was the coach. And literally the last time that they made the playoffs, Lindy Ruff was their coach.
So, I mean, hey, maybe it's going to work and maybe it's going to get going for them, but I don't know. I want this team to be good.
Did they make the playoffs? Maybe they didn't make the playoffs. Oh, they didn't. But, I mean, last time they did make the playoffs, he was their coach. But his last year, they finished 3rd of 5 in their division. Back when there was 6 divisions, right?
Yeah.
And they were in the Northeast. And then they finished 5 of 5, 8 of 8, 8 of 8, 7 of 8, 8 of 8, 8 of 8, 6 of 8, 6 of 8, 8 of 8, 5 of 8, 5 of 8, 6 of 8. And so, yeah, it's been pretty bad. And so, maybe he can get them going in the right direction.
It's going to get them going in the right direction. Bring back the goat head full fucking time, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Just be better.
Just be better.
Be better.
So they locked down their goaltending.
Yep.
I'll let you say his name.
Oh, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
So we keep
to say.
Yeah, that's why I let you say it. We keep saying that Gibson should be a Sabre. Gibson should be a Sabre. I mean, that's pretty much out the window now, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because they're going to head into this season with Luukkonen, James Reimer, and then Devin Levi. And I'm assuming, Devin Levi is going to get chances, but Reimer is really there to make sure that they don't struggle as much, because I think Levi had some struggles. He's going to be there to help them win a few more games, and then Levi will have not so much pressure on him to be like the for sure backup. But like after this season, I think like it's one of those shit or get off the pots kind of thing, like you mentioned before, like the kid's only 22. So like, I mean, plenty of time left, but I think that they want him to take the reins.
Yeah. But I mean, the 5-year deal for Luukkonen is definitely helps take the pressure off. And, what was Luukkonen's deal? It was 5 years.
4.75.
So, I mean, that even if he ends up taking the reins from him and that's your backup, I mean, that's still a great cap hit right there, especially with the cap going up the way. So it's like they're set up good, I believe.
It's almost in a better situation the way that Levi has played, because he's not going to be demanding so much. But if he has a good year, you can possibly line him up and have like a 4-year deal and then have them be like 1A, 1B, and him being like a $4 million goalie, and you're only spending 8.75 on 2 guys for 4 years, until one probably is just like, I don't want to fucking be splitting time, and you trade him for whatever. Who cares? That's a future fucking problem. Just be better.
Be better.
That's all I gotta say is just be better, Buffalo. Like, God, I want you to win, and then every year you start hot, win like 10 in a row, and then you go on like an 18-game losing streak.
Well, so this is my last thing before we wrap up on Buffalo is, are we going to get a Tanner guarantee that they're going to have
absolutely going to happen. That's what happens every season. And everybody's like, oh, is this the year for Buffalo? And then Buffalo's like, shit, is this our year? And then they're like, oh, fuck, we just lost 15 games in a row. I guess not. Dude, do you remember when like Tampa was on their record-setting pace before Boston set the record? And at one point in December, Buffalo was actually in first place in the league, and then they missed the playoffs entirely.
Yeah.
Like, that's so dumb. It is so dumb. So frustrating.
Oh, man. Just moving on. Speaking of frustrating is seeing this team with 88 on their roster. The Detroit Red Wings finished 5th fifth in the division last year. 41, 32, 9 for 91 points. They missed out on the last playoff spot because Washington had more regulation wins over them.
They finished on the last playoff spot because Philly decided to pull their goalie.
Yeah, that's true.
In a tie game.
Goal leaders for Detroit. Our goal leader was Dylan Larkin at 33. Assist was Lucas Raymond at 41, and Lucas Raymond again at 72 for the points lead. One of the big additions for them was bringing in Vladimir Tarasenko, fresh off his Stanley Cup win.
Yeah.
Made it pretty clear that he kind of came because of Kaner.
Yeah, which is crazy. Who would have known? Who would have known that was the hidden best friend relationship?
Yeah. So I mean, this whole love triangle between DeBrincat, Panarin, and Kane is now turning into a love square.
Dude, it's the forbidden love, like the Romeo and Juliet, like Kaner in Chicago, Tarasenko in St. Louis, and then they get to hang out a bit on the Rangers, and then their sparks fly.
Some other moves they made, Cam Talbot, I'm blanking on his first name, Fisher.
Christian Fisher, yeah. Which I think he was on their team last season, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he re-signed, I believe.
Just re-signed?
Yeah. Re-signed. Big one, big buddy, Eric Gustafsson, still hanging around.
Hey, just if Kaner's on a team, sign him up.
And then Tyler Mott was another one, the 1-year deal.
Yeah. The other things too was they traded away Jake Wallman for a second, and then they also traded away Fabry and a fourth to Anaheim. And then the biggest thing right now is they're just not signing Seider and Raymond.
Well, that was one of the things. I'm like, a storyline for this team is, will these guys get signed before the season? And if they don't, I mean, that's going to drastically affect, I think, what this team is going to be able to do this season. I mean, you lose these guys, whether it be, a week, a month, or whatever, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. You can't win the Stanley Cups in the first month, but you can sure as hell miss the playoffs in the first month. And that's a category that Detroit's kind of floating in right now.
Yeah. I'm sure they're going to figure it out before the season starts. It's just really odd to me that they haven't done anything. Also, that there's been no news. Like, the only news that we hear of right now of like guys having struggles with their contract is Swayman.
I saw something I don't know if it was last week or earlier this week, saying that they are still discussing, but they're both players are focused on long-term deals. Okay. So I think right now it's the battle between Yzerman wanting the term and what he wants versus what the players are wanting. And Yzerman is holding you guys are RFA, you guys don't have a lot of say.
Yeah.
So I'm not blinking yet.
I'm curious if it's like he wants them on shorter deals that keep them at RFAs and then sign the like extensions, or maybe that's what they want. And maybe he wants longer term because longer term now you end up paying less in the future.
Yeah.
And if they want short-term deals, and when the cap goes up like crazy, and then they're like 2 years down the road, they're like, okay, now we have 2 more years of like, pay me the fuck now. Like, then they get mega deals on 8-year deals.
From what I was gathering from, I can't find who it was because it was one of the hockey accounts on Instagram, but it sounded like the players were looking for the long term.
Okay,
that was the vibe I was getting.
It's interesting since, like Austin Matthews went only like 4 years because he knows the cap's going up like crazy. And these guys are going to start setting Austin Matthews is a different type of player because he's going to be top of the league anyway.
Yeah.
And that bar is going to be set each year going forward by Draisaitl, McDavid. Like, you'll see that. And so then when his next deal comes up, it's going to be like $16 million.
Well, the also thing with Austin Matthews is the difference between him and the Detroit situation is Detroit's got the money.
Yeah.
Toronto doesn't. So Austin was probably like, all right, I'll take this short-term deal and then we'll just make it up down the line kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm curious like what they're asking when Detroit's got a little over 17 and a half. Like, if they can get matching deals it somehow, or I mean, I think Mo Seider is probably worth a little bit more. Give him like 8, and then give Lucas Raymond like 6. You can probably because they still also have Jonathan Berggren, who doesn't have a deal.
Which I feel bad for him. I kind of feel like he's the loss. He's just sitting there waiting for his like, hey, I'm good to go. Like I'll sign it. Like just send it to me. Like, and they're just waiting for these two.
The Detroit's just like these 3 guys won't sign their deals. I haven't even been offered anything.
Fuck these 3 guys. Honestly, I would go all in on Seider. Honestly, like I like Lucas Raymond. I think he's a great player. But Seider, he's something special, and it's hard to find those type of defensemen. And so, I mean, I would go all in on him. So I don't know if that was what you said. I don't know if that's the issue of holding this up, is that if they're trying to get them to sign matching deals and one's like, no, or not.
Curious. I'm sure they'll get done, and the team will look good. They have a full season of Patty Kane. Fuck, man, he had 47 points in 50 games, and like everybody's like, oh, Patrick Kane's washed. Like he was almost a point per game player. Like after missing 30 games. Like
that was my next question. So how much is this team going to benefit from not only having a healthy Patrick Kane, you're adding in Tarasenko, who is coming off of a Stanley Cup campaign. You got, a full year with Kane DeBrincat. You have all these pieces coming together. I mean, you get those 2 deals done. It's like Detroit can be fucking scary.
Yeah. Plus Larkin had some injury issues, and like, I know he missed only 14 games, but like the severity of like the injuries that he took, like, he must have also been playing pretty hurt.
Yeah.
It's not like he was completely healthy all the time. Like he missed games, and I'm sure he was playing hurt. So having him hopefully like healthy for a full year, they can be pretty fucking scary. I think they'll be pretty good. And especially like adding Cam Talbot in the back end too, that's going to help out.
And they also have Jack Campbell.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
Jack Campbell still has a contract in what? Wait. Oh, did he get bought out? Is that right?
Bought out. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, I thought it was a different Campbell because it just said Campbell, and I was like, it must have been somebody else.
1 year. He's on a 1 year, like 750.
Yes, 700 2-way. Oh, one way 775. Dude, that can be a really good situation for them.
Right.
If Campbell can right the ship and like be in a completely different like atmosphere and get his head on straight, and he just had some terrible luck and things started just snowballing for him going downhill, and that might be a sneaky great signing. Who knows?
That's like, I think Detroit's biggest question mark is their goaltending.
Yeah.
Just because they have so many guys. It's like fucking Geiserman just collecting all the goalies. Ville Husso, Cam Talbot, Alex Lyon, Jack Campbell. Yeah. It's just a matter of, but I mean, I guess that's always good because then it's just, hey, next man up, somebody's struggling. Let's bring somebody else into the fold and see.
You have plenty of options. And I mean, it was the whole thing I was talking about with Ottawa, right? Like Cam Talbot went from having a shit season in Ottawa where he really only played 36 games and started 32 of them, had an 8.98 save percentage and a 2.93 goals against average. The year before in Minnesota, he had a 9.11 save percentage and a 2.76. And then the year after in LA, he had a 2.50 goals against average and a 9.13 save percentage. So what you're really looking at is that over the past 5 years, that Ottawa season was really an outlier for him. And his average is right around 9.15, 9.14, 9.15, and like around a 2.6 goals against average. So they added solid goaltending. And I mean, whoever is going to be backing them up, like if anything happens, like you have plenty of options. It's going to look good for them.
Yeah. So, all right, real quick, yes or no before we move on. Is Detroit a legitimate playoff contender?
Yeah, I do. I think so because they were so close last year, and I think they're going to be able to push it a little bit harder this season because you can still see 5 teams coming out of the Atlantic.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on. We're now getting into the playoff teams and the top half of this division. First up is the Tampa Bay Lightning, who finished 4th. 46, 29, and 8 for 98 points. They ended up losing in the first round in 5 games to Florida. Their goal leader was Braden Point with 46. Assist was Nikita Kucherov with 100, and points was Nikita Kucherov with 144. Big
disgusting. Should have won the Hart.
Yeah, should have won the Hart. Big ad. Their biggest ad was Jake Gensel. Was the big, beautiful prize piece of this year's free agency class.
Big minus though.
Steven Stamkos.
Yep.
So before we get into that, I guess
also it's big minus Mikhail Sergachev.
Right. What's it going to be like post Stamkos era? I mean, is that anything going to change? Is only thing going to be different is weird not seeing him in a Tampa Bay Lightning jersey, or is this team really looking to see, taking a dip?
It'll be interesting. I mean, Gensel going in there instead of Stamkos, I think they'll be able to pick it up right away and be fine. They brought back Ryan McDonough, which is going to definitely help them out on the back end too. He's solid defensively, so losing Sergachev won't hurt as much. They also traded away Tanner Jeannot, which, I mean, that's just grit, right?
Yeah.
They signed Cam Atkinson, Zemgus Girgensons, like some guys that are going to be like third, fourth line guys that have plenty of experience. Yeah, JJ Moser, that's one of the guys that they ended up getting in that Sergachev trade.
Him and Connor Geekie, right?
Yes, and Connor Geekie's a pretty decent prospect, and maybe he'll see some more time. But yeah, I mean, Tampa's still going to be dangerous because they still have Kucherov, they still have Vasilevsky, they still have Hedman, who literally just signed an $8 million deal.
It was the Stamkos deal he signed in Nashville.
Yeah, and how was it? 4 years?
Yeah,
2 years. 4 years. That's so funny. Yeah, they're still going to be a dangerous team. John Cooper is a great coach. He'll get the most out of these guys. Yeah, I mean, your big guns, Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point. Now you got Jake Gensel added. Brandon Hagel's so fucking awesome. I love that guy. Anthony Chiarelli. Like, those are your big 5 forwards right now. And then Nick Paul, he's middle of the lineup and so solid. He's a big fucking guy.
I mean, as much as you want this team to take a step back, just because purely for what happened with Stamkos, I mean, it's hard not to argue that they actually might be better this year, I think. I mean, their defense, I think, will be a little bit questionable, but I mean, what you're just saying, all the names you're listing for their offense and their top 5 and all that, and their depth they have, it's like how that's a scary fucking lineup. Like, how do you look at that and not be like, oh yeah, this team is a cup contender?
It's the only thing I can say is like they have played lots of hockey in the last 5 years. So they went from like 2017-18, they were first of 8, second of 8, third of 8, third of 8, third of 8, fourth of 8. So they're kind of regressing a bit because they've been playing so many games, but they're still winning 40. Let's see, they won 45 last year, 46 the year before, and 51 the year before that. I mean, they're still going to be winning tons of games.
I mean, didn't Vasilevsky have a down year this year too?
Yeah, you can say that. I would argue
for his standards, at least I should say.
Yeah, and I think that it still has to go a lot into the fact that they played so much fucking hockey.
So that's what I'm saying.
He's only 900 save percentage and a 290 goals against average. So that's not near his average.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like you get him a healthy. I mean, I think he missed the start of the season for injury. He had that surgery.
Yeah, I think so. He ended up still playing 52 games.
Right. Yeah, which is hilarious because they just fucking rode him once. He's like, "Oh, let's ease you in." Nope, you're just fucking going. Dude,
they did start the season with Jonas Johansson, and they were just like, "We're gonna outscore everybody. Just try and make some saves."
Yeah. So I mean, if you get a healthy him for full season back to his normal self, and the amount of pucks you can put in the net with this team, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to think that they can move into the top 3, if not maybe even top 2 in this division.
Yeah, I mean their power play is still going to be insane now that they have Jake Gensel in there with where Steven Stamkos basically was, and they're going to be completely fine.
So, all right,
scary team there.
Let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They finished last season in third in this division, 46, 26, and 10 for 102 points. And stop me if you've heard this before. They lost in the first round, Game 7 against Boston.
Dude, fucking book it again this season. Like, let's watch it again for the 8th time or whatever it is.
Goal leader was Austin Matthews with 69. Assist leader was Mitch Marner with 59. And points leader was Austin Matthews with 107. So the first thing I've written down here for storyline is, so who do they lose in Game 7 in round 1-2 this year?
Detroit.
And
which would be awesome because if it's Detroit with Kaner versus Austin Matthews, just let me hear you.
Yeah. The other thing I have written down here is I think a big part of this is the off-ice distraction of Mitch Marner. It came very clearly. It seemed like he wasn't going to be a Maple Leaf at the start of the season, and now it looks like he's going to be. So I guess the question is, does he make it through the whole season? Do they wait to see where they're at and flip him for assets, or do they just roll the dice and get to the playoffs with him on there, no contract in place, and hope something can come to terms?
I mean, if they're they're going to be in a playoff spot. So I don't think they move him, and maybe they try to come to terms, or maybe they do like a sign and trade in the offseason, or they just let him walk. I just don't know. It's weird to me because I feel like they should just let Tavares walk and re-sign Marner.
And there's reports that they already have the framework for Tavares to re-sign.
That's so, yeah. I mean, go for it, but that team's not going to get any younger, and losing Marner and keeping Tavares is just going to make them older.
They brought in, speaking of older, on the back end, they brought Chris Tanev.
Which is, I think, a really nice ad.
It's a great ad. Yeah, he's just not a spring chicken anymore.
No.
They brought in Stanley Cup champion OEL. They re-signed Ty Domi. They brought in Match Pacioretty on a PTO. What else did they bring in?
They re-signed Nick Robertson, but there's more than likely he's not going to be.
It's just to get him
on starting the season with the team. He's more than likely going to be traded. They lost Bertuzzi and Brody. Guess where they went?
Chicago, baby.
Tri-City. Let's go.
And then they also one move I think that's really underrated that they made was Stolarz from Florida. Bring him in. I think they're really all in on Wool being their number one guy.
Yeah, I mean he showed that he was capable of playing very well in the playoffs, but I'm curious to see how a whole season will go for him.
And I think that's why Stolarz is the perfect accent piece for them, because it's one, he's not necessarily gonna force his way into the starting role, but he's definitely somebody that can take it over. And if he needs to start for a little bit and you put Wool on the bench to kind of be like, hey, come on, man, I think it's a good competition and healthy, and it's not going to be like a fuck you, this is my net. It's like, hey, this is how you become the top guy kind of thing.
The other thing they did though too is they re-signed Matt Murray, and it came out that Matt Murray said that he is finally starting to feel 100% healthy for the first time in a while.
Good for him. That's
and
awesome.
if he is, and he can play like how he did when he was in Pittsburgh, maybe that could be. It's another. Another Jack Campbell situation where this guy is signed for so cheap, and your goaltending situation is not really solidified. So it's a good situation for them, and it's not going to hurt the team. Where it's okay, it could be a perfect mix of holy shit, I can't believe this guy's getting paid this much, and he's helping this team fucking just win all these games.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting year. Finally made the coaching change.
Yeah.
Forgot who they named though.
Who their coach is?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to. No, it's Craig Berube, isn't it?
Okay, I thought that's what I thought, but
dude, I completely drew a blank when you said that. I was like, it should have been Quenneville because like that would make so much sense. But they did it before he was allowed back. So, yeah, Craig Berube.
That also feels like 3 years ago that all those coaching, like Sheldon Keefe getting fired and all this. Like this feels like a long off season.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, so Toronto, we keep saying it every year, and it's like, I mean, it's got to be a make or break year for them, and they have got to fucking do something.
Yeah. It would, like, just getting past the first round is not like the thing that they need to do at this point. Like, they need to fucking win it all. And I don't know if they will because they haven't proven that they can do anything in the playoffs.
But don't worry. Austin Matthews has the C now, so that's all going to change everything.
Yeah, dude, it is so much of just the San Jose Sharks in the early 2010s. Like, okay, Marleau, you don't have the C anymore. It's going to go to Joe Thornton, and things are going to change. And then they continue to choke in the playoffs. And then they're like, okay, Joe, we're taking it from you, and it's going to go to Joe Pavelski. And then they still didn't win. I mean, they ended up going to the final, but like that's it. Did you notice? I just saw this. They signed Yanni Hakanpää today.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
6'7" defenseman. Jesus Christ. Another, but like it's pretty nice because he's a good defensive defenseman. And just, played the season with Chris Tanev, or just finished the season with Chris Tanev. So, familiar faces, different places.
Yeah. So,
dude, Tanev is a 6-year deal. Oh my God. He's 34. What are you doing?
It's very Toronto.
Yeah, man.
All right, let's move on to the team that knocked out the Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins, who finished second in this division last year with a 47-20-15 record, 109 points. End up losing in round 2 in 6 games to Florida. Their goal leader, assist leader, and points leader was all David Pastrnak with a line of 47, 63, and 110. This is a team we thought was finally going to fall off.
Yeah.
They lost Bergeron to retirement.
Krejci.
Just things just didn't seem like, okay, it's on, last year was the Swan Song.
They have literally no centers.
And they still somehow finish with fucking 100 and almost 110 points. They go in the offseason and bring in Lindholm and Zadorov.
Yep.
Also sign. See, I hate when this website just puts the last names because I don't know.
Oh, they signed Tyler Johnson to a PTO.
Tyler Johnson's PTO, yeah, that's a good one.
The other signing here, I'll pull it up here. I don't think there's anybody really notable. Max Jones, who was from like Anaheim, I think he was somewhere else this past season. Jordan Osterley. It's really just minor signings.
They lost Olmark. They lost Jake DeBrusk.
They still, like we mentioned earlier, have not signed Swayman as of this. They lost Patty Maroon to guess who, baby?
Chicago. But yeah, so it's like that's like the one thing. It's
the DeBrusk signing. I forgot about that. That's a big one too.
Yeah, there is. I mean, assuming Swayman gets locked down, I think it's going to come to terms. It's just both parties are being very stubborn right now and not really backing down from what they want. But once he's in the fold, my question with that is he going to be able to handle the solo lack without Omar? Because
that's true. Well, they have Korpisalo too to back up now, though.
That's true, but I mean, if your theory about leaving Ottawa is true, then yeah, no problem, they're fine.
Yeah,
but it's like if Korpisalo is playing like he played last year, it's gonna be. Happen. I'm just saying though, it's gonna be tough for them, and Swayman hasn't had that load as the guy. I mean, I think the most he's played in one season was what, 44 games?
Yeah, which was last year.
So can he do that without having his safety net there?
I think bringing in Korpisalo is going to be like they're going to be like best goaltending tandem in the league, still guaranteed, because fuck, man, it's the defense is going to be good. That's all I can really think of, and that's what the defense has been good. I mean, Charlie McAvoy is just fucking disgusting. Hampus Lindholm has played very well. Nikita Zadorov is going to be a monster out there. Brandon Carlo is another. Isn't he fucking big too? 6'5". Yeah. Oh, Charlie McAvoy's the smallest defenseman.
Yeah, that's all I have to say. That and
he plays so aggressive that you think that he's huge, but he's 6'1" and he's their shortest defenseman.
And they're also now the heaviest team in the NHL.
Yeah.
Their average weight is 207.
They're going to be a pain in the ass for everybody to play, and then Pasternak's just going to fucking put it in from the goal line like stupid.
I mean, Pasta's just a cheat code. He is just everybody's cheat code, and it's like you need something, just put that bastard out there, and he'll go get it for you.
Yeah, he's good. He's so good.
I mean, I got nothing much else to say about Boston. You got anything?
They'll probably make it in the playoffs again.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just wrap this up then here with the defending Stanley Cup champion, the Florida Panthers, who finished first in this division, 52-24-6 for 110 points. They had their goals leader was Sam Reinhart with 57. Assist leader was Matthew Tkachuk at 62, and their points leader was Sam Reinhart at 94. Finally, mortgaging the future for Zito finally paid off, and I think this is going to be a very telling year about how that's going to look going forward, because personally, I think this team is going to have a step back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to be a full-on fallback, but I don't see them doing what they did this last season this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost some big guys, but they were able to still hold on to some guys that a lot of people weren't sure they were going to be able to keep, like Sam Reinhart. Yeah. And I think Dmitry Kulikov was also on their team last year, which he's just defensive. But like Brandon Montour, losing him, like that's gonna sting a little bit. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he's no longer there. Vladimir Tarasenko, which they had at the end of the year. Those are I mentioned. Yeah, Stolars. But I mean, is Spencer Knight coming back? Is he gonna fit back in there?
That's gonna be interesting. I mean, and I think it's gonna be. I think he's got to be the guy as the backup, pencilman backup right now.
Yeah. They did. I think with all the guys that they ended up bringing in, it's such a thing still where I want Adam Boqvist to fucking succeed, but like this is such a good spot for him to be in. Mm-hmm. Nate Schmidt, they signed him. Jacob Magna, is that the one that we had? Yeah, it is. Yeah, they signed him too. So they have like these minor contracts for these.
And guys. Your favorite guy, your favorite former Blackhawk is.
Oh yeah, Mackenzie Whistle. It's not good. But I mean, they still have their big guys, right? Like Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling. Like that's your top line right there on defense. And then you kind of fill it out, and hopefully things work out for you. But I mean, Barkov, Tkachuk, Reinhart, like. They're going to be so good still.
Dreiger, that's who they brought in. That's
Drieger?
Drieger, yeah.
Yeah, they had him before too. Before Seattle.
They lost him, Seattle.
I don't know if like Sam Reinhart's going to put up the same numbers he did this year. The most goals he had before that was 33, and then he put up 57 last year. So I think it's going to be an easy regression, but if he puts up 50 again, you're kind of like Sam Reinhart, like a consistent 50 goal scorer. But they'll still be good. They'll still be top of the league. Another year though of Bobrovsky. He's only 35. He's probably. I feel like he's got maybe a few years left.
I mean, it feels like mid 30s is like.
Oh, the sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah, like once you start hitting that like 37 is kind of like when it's like. okay, which is so crazy to me that like the position that requires you to get up and down consistently is the one where it's like the oldest age, like before your fall off comes.
Yeah. Yeah. The goalies are better at a later age than the players. It's really weird.
So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think they're a playoff team still. I just don't think it's going to be. Last season was perfect for them. It was just storybook and just exactly like how you wanted to plan out.
Oh, yeah, especially with the way that the season before ended. Like, that team was on a mission. It's like they have mission completed, and I don't know if the drive is going to be there as much as it was this past year. Plus, like, it's probably been a long summer for them.
Oh, yeah.
Just no sleep.
Yeah. So, all right. You got anything else for Florida?
No. But, they'll still be a good team.
All right, well then let's just wrap this up here real quick. And I'm gonna hold us to this. What is your positioning for this division?
Dude, I think Toronto probably comes in first. And then I would say probably Florida, Boston, Tampa, Detroit. I think it just falls into place like the way it did before, because it's hard for me to see Buffalo like getting so many more points than Detroit when I think Detroit's also improved. And I don't think Ottawa is going to be worse than Montreal, but I don't think Ottawa is going to be better than Buffalo. So really, I just think Toronto's going to bump up and then bump everybody down one for Florida and Boston. So yeah, Toronto, Florida, Boston, Tampa, Detroit, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal. What about you?
I don't know. I think Florida is going to be 3. I think it's going to go Toronto, Tampa, Florida. And I don't know. Someone tells me to say Detroit 4, Boston 5, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal.
I feel like this is finally the year that I get Boston like the credit and be like they're going to still be in it, and then they're just going to fall off. I'm going to be like, yes.
So, all right. So that's our Atlantic Division preview. We will be back next week with the Metro. And each week going up until the start of the season, we'll be having a preview episode. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on your favorite podcast feed, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever one. We're on all of them. Social media at WCB Podcast. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Love you, boys. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the WCB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast. To connect with Jarom and Tanner, check out the boys at WCB Podcast on all social media. We'll see you next time.